let alone for my title, but I'm excited for yours because I want to say the first time I ever saw you stream and like I knew it was you. You were Ash said hi. You were playing Secret of Mana.
Oh my gosh, was that the first time?
I want to say like that was the first time I knew for certain. Like I might have seen your name on Twitter or other social medias, or maybe like a Twitch trailer or something like that. But me being in chat, having a conversation with you and all your awesome people, you were playing Secret of Mana. That's what I feel like I remember deep down.
Oh, wow. And that was a really good playthrough, too. I had so much fun playing. Topics we've gotten into before were controls, art, music, lore, dev, and our personal story of why we chose these games. I remember I had Robotrek, and I played that game with my mom, and I played Secret of Mana with my cousins. I don't think I played it with my mom. Or I might have. Chat, just bear with me if there's any hiccups with any of the overlays or anything like that. I'm gonna try my best here. All right.
And she does her best, folks. Don't you forget.
Which, you know what's cool about Secret of Mana is I think it's like one of the first games to utilize the multi-tap. Did you ever have a multi-tap, Jen?
I never had a multi-tap. I did play this, because you still had the second player controller, so you could switch between the alternate characters if you wanted to play as a different one. But when I went into one of my friends' places, they did have the multi-tap, and therefore 3 of us were able to actually play the game. And it blew my mind because it was an action adventure game that's kind of in this RPG, this deep lore RPG setting that's like, wait a second, we can all play? We don't have to take turns, passing off. So I'm really excited to hear what you learned about the control.
A personal story real quick is I definitely played this game with my cousins. I remember having memories of us staying up all night playing this game together, and I remember like doing the boss battles with them and stuff, and there were certain things about like the magic that like if we both like casted the magic at the same time, like I think there was like some slowdown and stuff with the game. But anyway, I remember really having fun. And of course, my favorite controller, I think the Super Nintendo controller is like my favorite controller out of like all the Nintendo consoles. I know, there it is.
Right? Come on.
Oh my God, it's like the best. It says, like many other role-playing games of the 16-bit era, Secret of Mana displays a top-down perspective, which you can see here in the video, which the player characters navigate terrain, fight off hostile creatures. The game features 3 characters, the hero, the girl, and then a sprite. I always liked playing as the hero, but sometimes I found myself playing as the sprite just for fun. I don't know why. I really like the sprite. I just think he would like fun and silly character. Initially, in the North American and European release, the player can choose to control each of the characters at any time. Whichever character is currently selected, the other 2 companions are controlled via artificial intelligence. So one note with that is, I know just from playing it myself and from hearing what people talk about on Twitch, they really did not like the AI, the way that the AI controlled. And sometimes I kind of felt that. All right, let's say you get to a part where you had to use like a whip, for example, to cross over. And then there was like, like a pathway to walk through. Sometimes the AI would get stuck like behind an obstacle, or sometimes the AI would get stuck like fighting an enemy. And what I didn't realize this until I was like a grown adult, was that there's actually AI controls within the game. And you had to select, okay, do I want the computer to be more aggressive, more defensive? Do I want them to like attack? Do I want them to power up their weapons? Or do I want them to like run away? Until I was a grown adult, I didn't realize you could change those settings. As a kid, I was like always struggling. Oh, why are these characters always getting stuck? But
it's funny you say the getting stuck thing, because I literally feel like I remember, I wish someone could drop a clip right now in chat, that you were in the Mana Fortress.
Right.
And you were dealing with one of those situations with the whip, and you're like, oh, come on right now.
Oh my God, yes. I remember. I think what was I doing? I was either trying to get away from an enemy, or I was trying to get across something. And because, well, in the Mana Fortress, that's like all of the toughest enemies are in that section.
They're ridiculous, yes.
If you get stuck, you could get killed really fast. So that's why knowing how to do those controls is key. You only get a certain amount of couple wishes So if my character dies, like, that's it. I don't got a lot of opportunities there. The game may be played simultaneously by up to 3 players, made possible by the multi-tap, which we talked about. Sometimes, like, my notes, we're going to talk about also because there's like a remastered version of Secret of Mana 2.
Oh,
So
right, yes.
the virtual console version of the game supports 3-player via GameCube controllers or classic controllers. Each character possesses individual strengths and weaknesses. The hero, while unable to cast magic, masters weapon at a quicker rate. Because that's another cool thing about the game too, is that each weapon levels up and the magic levels up. And the more you use the weapon, you'll level up. And the cool thing is when you level up your weapon, there's like an attack gauge. So you hold the button down and then you'll do different attacks. And that's another thing I didn't realize as a kid. Like, if you could let go of the button at, like, say your gauge goes up to 8, which I think is the highest. If you let it go at 5, you'll do a different attack. But I always thought I had to hold it to the max in order to do an attack.
Oh, got it.
I don't know why my little kid brain always thought that way.
You were just always trying to, do the best. So you're like, I gotta do the max.
That's true. Always trying to do the best. And then each weapon also had special attributes, which I didn't realize. There will be some weapons that will be good against insects, or some weapons that would be good against dragons, or some weapons that would confuse an enemy or poison an enemy. And then you also had magic attributes that you could also cast on each weapon, which was, that I thought was a really cool mechanic. I really liked that. I like the leveling up of each weapons, even though it could kind of get grindy, especially being that there are certain weapons that you kind of need for different terrain in the game, like the whip or the axe or the sword. The girl is the healer, able to cast restorative and supportive spells, and the sprite casts offensive magic to damage and impair enemies. Upon collecting enough experience points in battle, each character increases in level, and the trio can rest in towns where they can regain hit points, purchase restorative items, and change equipment. That was one thing that I don't know if they do this in like remaster version, but one thing that I always wanted is if you change your armor, you could see the change on the character. I always love games that do that.
Yes, same.
But the armor design in the game is really cool.
I love the sprites they had, like you said, for the armor, for the weapons, and like when you got the upgraded versions of them, they were just so, they just fit. You're like, oh, I can't wait to get the next one. What does the next one look like? And then once in a while, though, you get that upgrade. You're like, well, that one's not as cool as the previous.
There was this one helmet that I got. I think it's called the duck helm. Oh my gosh. Why can't this be an OP helm? Who wouldn't want to wear a duck helm? That's so cute.
Exactly right.
Right? Okay, combat takes place in real time in this game. It's not like a turn-based strategy game, which is, I think, the reason why I kind of like it. I always compared this game to Chrono Trigger, which actually we'll go over the reason why later on in the show of why that commonly happens. Love that style, like the active style, more than like a turn-based battle or a game that has random battles.
Oh, yes, really. I agree. Yes, 1000%.
Random battles can go kick rocks. If I'm gonna be honest with you,
I learned to accept it in those titles, but is it my preferred? Heck no.
Right.
Tech no.
There's different weapons: the sword, the spear, the bow, the axe, the boomerang, the glove, the whip, and the javelin. And they could all be upgraded 8 times, and they all have a special attack, like we talked about. Oh, and the way that you did that was you could go to a blacksmith with the orbs, and you get the orbs by either defeating each boss, or sometimes you find them in a chest. And that was the thing too. There were certain weapons that you couldn't max up unless you grinded like a treasure chest drop from an enemy in the Mana Fortress. I don't think I ever maxed out every single weapon. And in this game, in order to learn magic, the party must rescue spirits known as the elements. And I believe there were 8, right? There was water, earth, air, Luna, Sylphid, the shadow one, and 2 more. Oh man.
There was, I want to say Lumina was another one.
Lumina.
And then, because I was like Luna and Lumina were like the opposite ones you got at the same time.
Yeah.
And I want to say whatever one was for Bright or the tree, the Dryad, maybe?
The Dryad they both got. I think the girl got the light one, and the sprite got the shadow one.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, Salamando, fire. the fire
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Yes.
Of course, fire.
Yes.
It actually had such cool animations when you did the lava. I don't remember the name of the lava attack, but it was just.
I think it
always
was
so
called
cool looking.
lava. That was one aspect that I really love. The magic casting was the animation, not just the animation, but like in the menu,
Yes.
the icons for each menu. I don't know why. I just loved everything about the artwork of this game, which I can't wait to go over the artwork section. At the start of the game, to reach a destination, players must traverse enemy-infested countryside. There was the Cannon Traveling Center. There was also Flammy, which was our little dragon that we could kind of fly through the sky. And when you're flying through the sky, the game takes advantage of Mode 7, which was really cool.
Love Mode 7.
I remember myself flying around just for the sake of flying around because I could do it and because it looked really awesome.
And the music of it.
The first music you get is like really nice and cheery, but then there's like a second song. I think it's like when Pure Land comes up out of the ground or like the mana tree gets like cut or something. And it has this like dark, ominous music right before the sky turns red and then the fortress is in the sky. I remember as a kid not wanting to use Flammy during that time because I was like, this song is scaring me.
Yes, I'm scared right now.
I think that's it for my notes of how the game controlled. But I think overall, a really easy to grasp game. Like, it doesn't take a lot of long time to learn and figure it out. Like, you could pick it up and play easily, switch between the characters easily. The only pain point is when characters, sometimes you're walking, you get stuck. With that, there's actually a glitch that you can do. I don't know if a lot of people know this. You can utilize that like character getting stuck behind stuff to re-enter the town that you get kicked out of in the very beginning of the game. And I've done it before with my cousin. You need 2 controllers to do it.
Funny you say that because I thought the glitch you're going to talk about actually is there's another glitch that you can do, and it is with the orb. You can actually create a second orb for your sword. And I can't remember what, I think you had to be like in the frozen tundra area. And you have to be careful though, make sure to save on multiple files because when you go for this glitch, you could completely corrupt your file.
What?
But if you get it right, you get an extra orb. So you are already ahead. You don't have to farm for one of the orbs that you were talking about earlier.
I did not know about that.
What was so funny is, so my friend had pointed this out to me. He'd been doing research when I was going to my Secret of Mana playthrough. I can't remember how many years ago. I want to say it's been like 4 years now. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then I didn't save an extra file, right? And so I go for it, file's broken. I'm like, we just lost all this progress. He's like, no, hold on. So then he goes and gets a save file, sends it to me because I was at that point in time, I was playing on emulator only because I didn't have this whole setup I have now.
Right.
And so then I got that file, jumped in, did the trick again, and got it. And I was like, oh, there we go. We got it. We don't have to farm for this later. Yay.
Robotrek.
All right, folks, are you ready to delve into the controls of what a lot of you probably are like, what the heck is this game? Was it even sold in the US? And yes, it was. And the reason why, I'm just going to give a little bit of this. We'll talk about it a little bit more later. But in the US, the game was called Robotrek. In Japan, it had a different name. That name was Slapstick. Let's go ahead and jump into the controls of this game. The overall controls of this game, Robotrek had a very similar gameplay style to that of most RPG video games, with the notable exception that the main character is not the combatant, actually. He has robots that he has to invent, so therefore it's a little bit more like Pokemon or Dragon Quest monsters, where you are the controller of said fighting beings, and in this instance it's robots. These are highly customizable in aspects such as equipment, special attacks. You can change their body color, you can change their name. The player is allowed to build a maximum of 3 of them, and once you start playing, you start to realize a little bit like you're gonna have your favorite one, you're gonna have your second favorite one, and then you're just gonna have this third one that's kind of like piddling around unless you're like a super grinder for games, and you're like, well, this last one's just here in case I really mess up or a big old enemy wave's coming and I know it's going to hurt my guy. I'll just throw that one out there, let it get destroyed.
It's so funny that you say that because that's exactly how I set my robots up. I thought it was just me.
I had one. I was like, oh, they're going to do their big attack. Okay, switch this one out. Oh, no, it almost killed it completely. That's okay. You did your job. Unlike many RPGs, the player must invent or create the robot's equipment as well. And so you'd use things called program points to set the robot's attributes. So you had all these different attributes that you could also change for your units. And sometimes you'd find which ones were much more consistently better, but you still had to have a diversification amongst your robots because you were taking on so many different enemy types. Special attacks in like a macro, I said micro, I meant macro, like fashion, although certain commands do special effects instead. This game was really, really cool. So now let's actually talk about how the layout worked for your controller. The one thing that was really cool about this game, oops, that one's, I'm not gonna have as much leeway. Okay, cool, this is the one I got leeway on. All right, cool. I didn't want to like pull. On this one, what you could do, which was really cool, it was kind of like it was a fast forward button or a fast play button. If you hit your L button, it's gonna be kind of opposite for y'all like viewing this, but this is your L button, right, which is above the D-pad. What this would allow you to do is you could go ahead and go through function or name entry screens really quickly. So if you wanted to speed through, I've already been here, or I've already heard this person talk, but I have to talk to them to get in the area, hurry on up, you could go ahead and fast forward through it. Now, control pad, D-pad, just what you expect. You'd move around with it, nothing too crazy there. When it came to your select button though, now this brought up the function screen. You could also rearrange items in your inventory. When you're on the world map screen, it will switch viewpoints. So if you want to be viewing from a different angle, you could. Also, when you are in the battle screens, you could switch between your robots with the select button. When you were on the function screen, the only way to go ahead and scroll on through them, you're gonna use the R button for that. When you press the X button, this will actually bring up the function screen to begin with. The B button, now most of the time, like most games, B button, you normally look forward, you're gonna back out, you're gonna cancel a lot of choices. You might erase a name entry because you typed the wrong letter in. But this also makes the hero walk faster, which any of us out there that have played games where there's differing speeds of how you navigate through cities, through towns, dungeons, and it's like, oh my gosh, why is this so slow moving? Versus having the sprint option, that sprint would be clutch.
Yes. Oh my gosh. There are some games where it's like when they give you the option to either walk or move fast, like Pokemon, give me that bike. Let's go. Let's go fast. Unless if going slow makes it that you don't run into as many enemies, that's the only time.
I like that. That's what Ash saying. That's top tier right there. I agree with that. Also, you could use this the B button. I'm on the B button still. You could also charge your attack bar faster. Again, this is only going to be when you are in battle with your robot. So it's very interesting. You had all these other elements to go ahead and make the game speed along because it also had different aspects that it wanted to make you struggle through. If you wanted to go ahead and pause the game, you could also hit start. You could do it during the field or battle screens. The Y button was specifically used the item that you selected. Maybe you had like a potion or what their version of a potion was, or you wanted to go ahead and apply a new piece of equipment to your robots. That's the button that you'd use for that.
What I liked about what you were talking about too is that when you go into an inventory screen, this is one thing that drives me nuts about some RPGs. In this game, I remember you could hit a button and it will auto sort your items for you.
Sort is the best.
Oh my god.
I can't say it enough with you.
Inventory management in RPGs is like a skill. And if you make that like as easy as possible, I'm like, yes, this is awesome.
I wholeheartedly agree with what Ash said because there are times that it is so turns a game that was fun into being very mundane, very tedious to be like, where is this one item in here? Because you don't get the auto what'd you just say? Auto sort or whatever feature. Some of the other RPGs got a little bit more advanced and you could flip flop. So you had auto sort, or you could, all right, I want to flip flop the thing. So I want my bottom to be at the top and then, or the top back to the bottom. And any of those extra sets for those things were so important for continued quality of life when you want to go back and play the game again. Because anytime you play a game the first time through, you're going to be accepting of its flaws. But if you were thinking about replaying a game, now those flaws come into your brain, you're like, do I want to deal with that?
You, as somebody who constantly does speedrunning, gave us the perfect speedrunning like perspective of this game and always wanted to do, like always pressing the button and wanting to walk fast or wanting to menu through things quickly. I like that perspective.
I don't know how many of us, we thought we're going to beat this enemy, no problem, but we died. So now we have to go back to our save point and play on through. But there's a couple of sections you're like, I don't care. I already know. I want to get back to the fight that beat my booty. Yeah. So like, can we hurry up and get there?
And you know that's happening a lot in RPGs, and especially being that back in this time, there's no autosave. If you get killed, you got to go through all that text.
Autosave blew my mind. You know, once that became a thing, right? Autosave was just like, are you kidding me?
Yep.
I was always so like, oh my gosh, can I save before the boss? Please let me save before the boss. Ah!
And you knew a boss was coming too if there was like a safe spot randomly in a dungeon before a room.
Like, and you're like, I am not going in that room without saving first because I'm afraid what's behind door number 1.
Please let me save.
So again, as a part of the controls, the battles are engaged by contact with the enemy. I have always enjoyed games like this. This game has it. Obviously, when it's a little bit different in Secret of Mana because there is no transition screen. You're already on the screen to fight. It's like, there it is. Go ahead and fight. While this game's going to transition from where you're walking into your typical RPG style. Lufia 2 also had it where the only way you get in fights with enemies is you go ahead and you make contact with them, and now it's going to screen transition into these fights.
Whereas like a game like Breath of Fire 1 and 2 and like Lufia 1, it's just random battle all of a sudden. You be walking, minding your business, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, there's an enemy that wants to come and has a death whip.
The fact that you brought up those 3 titles are like the most painful random encounters I can ever think of. Such a high percentage. Because like, as a kid, I was like, oh no, I need to go ahead and progress to this area. I'm going to fight enemies along the way and get level ups. But games like Breath of Fire, you really need to use those myths because you're like, I don't need all these fights. Like, this is going so slow right now.
I, in my little kid brain, used to call it in Breath of Fire Merble 3, but it's like MRBL.
Merble, whatever it's supposed to be called. I called it Mist, I think.
Okay, give me as many of these as I can buy, max it out, because I'm tired of this. But then you get to a boss and you're wondering, why am I so weak against this boss?
Can I actually beat this boss? I don't know. So now what was cool about this game is that almost always the player attacked first unless the enemy was able to attack you from the side or from behind, right? So if the enemy got that position before the battle started, then they were going to attack first. So this means even going into boss battles, you always had the ability to go ahead and have the first attack. Now you would think, oh, this means it's going to be easy. For some, yes, but not for all. But it was really cool. You always had that ability because it allowed you to game plan how you're going to go into some of these fights. Like, am I going to go with a defensive arrangement to start out with, or am I going to go right on the offensive? You're able to make those decisions beforehand because some of the bosses were pretty difficult. The player always had to wait for its gauge to fill up before it could even switch robots as well. So you had to take the choice, do I attack here or do I switch out another robot? Sometimes when you wanted to go ahead and do that, you had to make a decision, just kind of like Pokemon, where it's like, uh-oh, I'm going to lose an attack here, but it might be worth it depending on your setup with your 3 robots that you had.
I can remember, did you lose a chance to attack if you had to switch out?
Yes, you would lose a chance to attack in that instance, or a defensive setup. Any of those things you would lose out if you switched your robots. However, during the player's turn, none of the enemies will act and the robot is free to move around the battlefield and attack with one of its weapons. After the robot attacks, now that gauge appears. So it was always interesting how your first attack always came onto play and how the enemies had to now react to what you just did. Now, just like most RPG video games, the character gains experience points. And now in this game, they were called megs of data. If enough megs were obtained, the player gained a level. Also, all enemies do not give money by default, which made it difficult in some scenarios. Certain enemies do drop it on the map after being defeated. So you'd actually have this little cute, almost kind of like a Pokeball, but different color scheme. And you'd open up that little ball and boom, you might get some goodies in there. And usually it was money, but sometimes you might get a low level item or equipment, and that you might actually even recycle those items to get money.
There were some battles where, when you're starting out, you get like 0.2 megs. And then like later on in the game, I would get excited like, dad, yo, I got like 2 megs of data from that. And now it's like, now in this, age where it's like computers have like terabytes now, you're like,
oh my gosh.
Ooh, 2 megs of data. Wow.
It's so funny you said, because in the 90s, that was a big deal. right? Like we were still dealing with floppy disks where it was KBs, right?
Yep.
Kilobytes.
Yeah.
And so when it went to megabytes, you're like, oh, that's a pretty big thing you got there.
We're swimming in space now.
The battling system also used bonuses. The player could earn extra megs data by defeating enemies within a certain time limit using only melee attacks. Bonus capsules also scatter around for the duration of the time limit that can contain items or, unfortunately, traps. Your robot, like one of the things that Ash was talking about that she likes is where when you equip a certain type of item, it actually shows up on your character. Did that with your robot. If you were doing the melee weapons that were swords, hammers, axes, or blades, you would actually see that. When they were in battle, if they had a hammer on, they're going to be equipped with a hammer. If they had an axe on, they were going to be equipped with an axe. They could also hold ranged weapons like guns, lasers, rocket punch fist, which that was one of my favorite, was the rocket punch fist.
Oh, yes.
That was so strong. To defend yourself, you can also use shields, but they would be equipped in one hand. So you'd have two arms that you could equip to your, since you had two arms, you had multiple things you could equip with. And so now you had to decide, what am I going to use it for? Am I going to use it for defense? Am I going to use it for extra energy? I can use it for speed boost. You had all these different things that you could take into account. And what was cool too is when you had different level equipment, it would also be displayed on the screen. You wouldn't just have to memorize it. You would actually have a little display mechanism that you'd be like, oh, okay, I know this is a level 1 sword versus a level 4 sword. And that you wouldn't get confused like, oops, I just equipped, it sounded cool, so I equipped this weaker item, not realizing it.
Always a good thing when you can differentiate the items.
The last aspect of controls I want to get over on this is probably the most important aspect of Robotrek, and it's actually the inventing. You, as the hero here, the character that you are to start this game, you have to build things. Your father is a scientist. Your father has these engineering capabilities to create these robots or other greater distinctions you'll find out later as you play the game. You have to now do this in your own way because you're trying to help father and all these other things that are happening in the town and eventually the world as you play further and further through it. What you would actually do is when you're doing a lot of inventing, you would have to go ahead and take items, always 2 items, and you would try to combo them to get a greater item. And let me tell you how frustrating it was when you want to get a new item and you're like, okay, this and this time, and it failed. It'd give you something, but it's not what you were looking for. And you're like, man, I really wanted the good one.
Going through the list of stuff and trying to combine everything to see what I could get, like, because you're like, oh, what if there's this secret thing that I didn't know about, because inevitably there'll always be like, the secret item that you can find by combining something. So I remember trying to do in the R&D lab, just combining things to see what I would get.
Absolutely. And there were so many numbers, right? You had scraps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way through 10, and then even A and B. However, you would think A and B might be the secrets to your most powerful. It actually was 9 and 10. If you didn't realize that as you were doing it, you would just start combining things, not knowing what would make your most powerful items or weapons in the game. And therefore, it's like, oh, shoot. And sometimes you'd make inventions and equipment that aren't even compatible with your robots because of the way that you scaled your robot.
Yep.
And it's like, well, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have done that then.